can't hear you, Greg. You're on mute. Thank you. So I'll call this meeting to order. It's a special meeting of council dated the December 7th, 2021. So thanks for all doing this virtually. We couldn't seem to get our council chambers back into a council chambers. We've been using it for EOC and things are just kind of not as they used to be. So we will be back there the next time. So thank you to the public for enabling us to do this virtually this time. So land acknowledgement. I'd like to begin the meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Nakaplakma and Syilx people. So I don't know if I pronounced that right, and I apologize if I haven't. There are no late items, and there was one piece of public input, but it's not really related to anything on the agenda. So we can look at that and answer it afterwards, but not at this meeting. So the adoption of the minutes, I need a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the regional or the regular council meeting held on November 9th, 2021 be adopted.
So moved. Christopherson.
Second, Luck.
Thank you. And any errors or omissions? Was that your hand up, Travis? No? Okay, all in favor? How about all against? And anyone that is against, it's easier. Okay, seeing no against, the motion is carried. There is no public hearing. We move down, no unfinished business, and we move down to new business 9.1, and that's a report from Mr. Anderson. No, it is not. It's Mr. Smith. Sean, this is your report.
I don't want to steal the thunder from Mr. MacArthur on this one.
Yeah, it's Mr. MacArthur. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Mr. MacArthur, would you please provide us with a staff report? Dawn, you're on mute. If you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Just kidding. I will happily take this.
Thank you.
All right. So what we are proposing to council here is recognizing that there are so many people in the flood inundation zone that are going to be going through an incredibly difficult process over the course of the next weeks and months. And we're really putting forward a number of proposals to try streamlining processes as much as possible. While we retain those ones that are most important, we don't require certain processes that are less important. And then we're waiving fees for all processes functionally is what this looks like. So I'll go through with council as to what we're proposing and invite you to look on page 5 of the agenda, as I think this is the simplest summary for what we're looking at. What we are looking at for the Earthworks permit is to waive the requirement to apply the application fee and the security deposit for anyone in the flood inundation zone until December 31st, 2023. For any development permit for form and character, we'd be waiving the requirement for apply if you're in the R1 and R2 zones, and the application fee for all zones until December 31st, 2023. That we would be waiving the fees for any development permits that are technical in nature. So that would be things like your geotechnical permits, your riparian area permits, wildfire covenants, etc. So that we still require those things, but we are not going to have fees for them until 2023. Then for building permits, that again, we would be still requiring a building permit, but waiving the application, deposit, and permit fees until December 31st, 2023. And then part of the plan here to make sure that we can make this happen as quickly as possible is there will be a simplified process to try and make sure that we don't get inundated from a staff side, but we'll also be looking to bring on additional staff from a recovery perspective, because we know that people can't be waiting forever for building permits. And, even if the normal timeline is 6 weeks, it can't look anything like 6 weeks. We have to be talking in days, not weeks for people. And so we are working on how that is going to roll out now, and how we're going to be able to get some additional support potentially in the interim from other municipalities to assist with those applications, and then hopefully bringing on some folks that would be funded through a provincial recovery program over the course of the coming months to be able to hopefully minimize the concerns from processing time there. Then we would be waiving the permit fees and inspection fees for all plumbing permits until December 31st, but still require the plumbing permits themselves. And then similarly with a demolition permit, that we would be waiving permit fees and inspection fees until December 31st, 2023. One thing that I do want to note that for demolition permits, because we've already had a lot of questions already, is that if you're removing things like flooring, drywall, kitchen cabinets, debris removal, that's not demolition, and doesn't require a demolition permit. So I see that Don is on here now. So I gave the quick Coles Notes version, Don. My apologies for stepping on your territory, but please, any questions, I would encourage you to ask Don, as he is genuinely the expert on this.
Thank you. Mr. MacArthur?
Yeah, and my apologies, my internet went haywire there for a second, so I'm back. Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Smith. I'm not sure if you mentioned that in preparation of this report, staff have talked to the City of Grand Forks, as well as the city or the district municipality of Wood Buffalo, also known as Fort McMurray, who have both endured floods in recent years. And so we have aligned what we proposed here in terms of requiring permits but waiving fees with what they did there. And what they both explained to us is that it's really important that you continue to require permits, especially in the wake of this. There's a couple reasons for that. One is that in the future, if property owners want to sell their home, to show to prospective buyers that those repairs have been done in a proper manner, it's important that permits were taken out from the city and inspections were done by city building officials. So that will help homeowners or property owners in future when they potentially want to sell their home. And the other thing is more on a city side. If we're considering, any types of people, if they walk away from their property, if there's buyouts, if there's anything like that, if those are things that if we go down that road, like some of those other communities have done, having that sort of paperwork or that trail of permits and inspections on record is really important as well. So there's a couple really important reasons for doing that. But by waiving the fees, we obviously are helping financially homeowners to be able to move forward, and then also expediting the process. So that's one of the things that was explained, particularly in Grand Forks. They created a permit process. So instead of their regular, 4 to 6 weeks to process a building permit, they were doing it right at the front counter. So someone would come in and they would process the permit, go right through it with them and really issue the permit right then and there. So it's a 20, 30 minute sort of process. And then obviously inspections come later, but by able to have staff available to do those sort of, instantaneous permitting, it really helps things move forward, because people want to get in there. Obviously everyone right now is ripping things out of their homes, which is fine. That doesn't require permitting. But when you want to put insulation into your house back in, if you need to do any structural type of work, any plumbing work, those are the sorts of things that we want to make sure that we can expedite those permits so that people can move forward with those actions and get back into their home and living in their homes. So that's really the intent of what we put forward here, is this package that you'll see in the table in the report. And if council has any questions, please let myself know.
It looks like Councillor Christopherson has a question.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Don, when we're saying that there were waiving fees that's not just delaying them and putting them off, that's the actual fee is not going to happen?
Correct, yeah. So
Okay.
eliminating the fee for this time period between now and the end of 2023.
Now, is that for just the ones that are impacted by the flood, or is that for any new development coming into town?
So that's what staff have proposed, is that this would only be for homes in the flood inundation zone, those 805 properties that were identified. And obviously, we would be publishing a list of those properties so everyone is aware what properties those are. But essentially, it's the properties that were tagged either green, yellow, or red in that zone. So that's what staff are proposing. If council wants to go further than that or propose something alternate to that, please let us know. But that's what we're proposing. I know that Grand Forks, they sort of did this for their flood area as well. Fort McMurray took a different course, and they actually waived fees for the whole city for a time period. But when we were talking to them, they didn't necessarily think that they made the right choice on that. If they had gone back in time, they would have just done it for the flood area.
Good, thank you. That's excellent and clarifies a lot of things. Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. MacArthur? Okay. I need a mover and a seconder that council waive the requirements for permits as outlined in the staff report.
So moved.
Second. Etchart?
Yeah.
Anyone want to speak to this? Councillor
Yes.
Christopherson, are you still hand
Yeah,
up from
sorry.
previously, or we?
I forgot to unmute myself because I wanted to first it, but no, I really think that this is something that will really benefit our town. It'll help the people that have been so sorely distressed, and I think it'll be a good news story to put out there for people to see that there is hope on the future. I think it's absolutely excellent. Thank you, Don and Sean and Linda.
And
everybody.
Councillor Etchart,
Well,
and then Councillor Luck.
that's exactly what I was going to say too, because right now people need to get their permits so that they can get working on things right away, and then maybe schedule some inspections, because a lot of people want to have their heat back on and their electricity, and the spray done for the antibacterial, or whatever they're calling it, from Samaritas and Purse, antibacterial, antimicrobial, whatever, to prevent the black mold. Once they have the pumper truck in there, and some homes have already gotten to that point. And so, of course, I think they have to email like plans at Merritt or whatever for coming off the evac list. But we just really want to get people back in as fast as they can so that they can feel normal again, especially right now before Christmas. So yeah, no, this is great. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Luck.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate what Don had mentioned as well about, we want people to do this right moving forward. We don't want them cutting corners if they can, because it will affect the value of their home and everything. So I think that's really, really important for resale value and everything. So making this step is really going to help people to do the right thing here, hopefully, and we'll get things done. So protecting the value of their property and home moving forward. So that's really good. Thank you very much, staff, for doing that. That's great.
Thank you. Any other comments for public? Mila or Councillor White, do you have your hand up? No. Okay. Then I will ask the question. All in favor? Opposed? Probably I should have asked opposed first. Melva, I can't see how you voted.
Can you see me?
I can see no, I can't see you, and I can't see how you voted.
I'm down in the corner here under Greg.
Okay. And you voted in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and that was unanimous. Carried.
Yep. And
we move on to 9.2.
Your worship, may I just add something before we move on?
Yes.
Councillor Etchart mentioned about contacting the city for removal of the tags off of people's homes, that email address is rda@merritt.ca, or people can call the flood hotline 1-877-655-0341 and choose option 6. Leave your name, phone number, and property address, and we'll have a building official get back to you about what steps you need to take.
Okay, can you repeat that number again, please?
Sure. It's 1-877-655-0341. And again, it's option 6.
Thank you. Now we move on to the council approval of city expenditures for DFA recovery projects. And Mr. Anderson, this is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this process that we're going through here, we're asking council of tonight is for projects beyond the response effort that's already gone on. And there have been a number of what we call expenditure authorization forms that have been submitted to the province. I think we're up to about 78 of those right now. And those are 100% funded because they were part of the response. But as we get past the response and into the recovery process, they are recovered on a 80-20 percentage basis. So we've already got one of these projects in place that we are wanting to proceed with, or we have actually begun work on, which is Camford Avenue and the replacement of the sewer line and building the road back up to a level that it's passable. It won't be paved at this time, but it'll be paved in the spring. But getting that sewer line in place. The water line for those properties runs in the alley on Camford, so that's not part of this process. So we have a contractor in now. It's just under $200,000 in work that's being done to get that sewer line and road back to where it needs to be. So that can be done ahead of us getting what they call a cost recovery plan in place. And that cost recovery plan is not just for one project, but it could be up to 20 or who knows, 30 projects that we identify. We did meet subsequent to this report with our representative from DFA and talked about how we're going to go about doing that. And an engineer will be on site this week with our representative and somebody from the city showing them around to the different areas to work on the sort of the framework for the cost recovery plan. That plan can then be submitted to the province, even if it doesn't have all the details down to the nitty-gritty on it. We can get that out to the province and start work on these projects. With a CRP in place, we can start to bill back to the province. At this point, we're in a position where we're spending, but we're not able to bill back because projects haven't been identified and approved. We know that Camford Avenue will be approved. It needs to be done. It's definitely a major issue. So the rebuild on these projects and what is covered is building it back to what they call the original state prior to the event. So for Camford, for example, had pavement in the middle. It had some gravel on the edges. It had sidewalks. It did not have a curb with a storm sewer. So we could build it back to exactly what it was. But if we were to add on pavement to the curb and we had maybe a storm sewer in addition to that sidewalk, then we would be on the hook for the betterment, they call it, the additional work being done. So that's stuff that the city would need to fund. But at this point, we're going to go through, we're going to have the engineer identify what the original condition was, what the estimate is to bring it back to that original condition. And then as we look at these different projects, if we have additional funding available to us from other sources that help us do some better things in those areas, whether it's a park or whether it's a street or other infrastructure, then we will we'll look to build back better, as they say. Sean Smith has done a lot of research on this and what the province is doing these days with regards to it. And I know we're pushing on all different areas that we can to get additional funding to cover these extra costs. These are being set up, these projects are being set up as capital type projects, similar to what we do at the budgeting process when we have capital. Because they will roll into capital assets and the funding source will be the DFA funds and or any other funding source that we can receive through the process. A question was asked with regards to our OCP and those sort of things, like we are in the middle of an OCP, and if we had that in place, would that have made a difference? I'm not too sure on that, and I did place a call into our representatives with regards to that. because what they do state in the guide is that building back to code or to standards or requirements potentially would be covered. I'm not sure that those codes, requirements, and standards would be in our OCP. They might be in subdivision bylaws and those sort of things, but I'm not sure they were part of our OCP. But we'll have some discussion on that to see if there are some things that we are working on that would help us get to the next level in those areas. That, as I mentioned there, it's going to be an asset. We do have sufficient financial funding to be able to go ahead with these projects ahead of getting into the CRP approval process. So we do have funds. That's not a concern of ours, and we are in the process of submitting those 100% covered funding requests as well. The stuff that went through the response, we'll probably get our first submission in this week. And at this point, we've got about $7.5 million worth of requests out there to the province, not all approved at this point for the 100% funding. And then in addition to that, the province's what they call resource requests that they've sourced themselves. And I'm estimating that's probably over $2.5 million already. So combined effort at this time is probably in excess of $10 million.
Wow, thanks. And I'm going to go to Sean first and then Adam. Councillor Richard.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to add that one of the primary sources of funding that we're going to need to be ready for is an application that comes up in July 2022 called the Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund. There's two different streams there. One is between 1 and 20 million, and then there's a second stream for 20 million plus. And realistically, with the amount of work that we have to do in our community in order to make sure that we can build back better, there's going to be a 20 million plus application here. You look at the type of funding that did roll into communities like Grand Forks through this very same program. This is the one that tends to be, I'll call it the catch-all for a lot of these extra costs and really allowing you to prepare for what is a reality that climate change is absolutely making disasters look different in terms of increasing in severity and increasing in frequency. And we need to be prepared to be able to receive that and integrate, protection and resiliency infrastructure directly into our community in a way that's going to be usable, in a way that will be environmentally friendly, that it will support not just wet season, but it will support during drought as well. And so there's a lot of planning that needs to be done between now and that time, but we will be absolutely gearing up for the July 2022 application period.
Thank you. And questions now, Councillor Etchart, Council for Staff. Questions for staff.
I guess what I was wondering is if we were applying for funding to like DFA to repair some of the capital that was there along Camford, like sidewalks and streets and whatnot, would it be wise also at the same time to see if we can apply under that to do the sewer line? I know it goes in the alley and it might not have been damaged, but is it aging out and going to cause problems in the future if we have another flood event or anything? Maybe.
Yeah, Councillor Etchart through the mayor. The sewer, it was the water line actually in the alley there that runs there for those houses. I'm not sure if it hasn't been impacted, if we would be eligible for DFA on that one. If it's still, structurally sound, I don't think we would be able to go out for a DFA request on that. If there was issues with that need to be addressed, certainly we would include those in a project. But at this time, I think it was functional. It's just the sewer line that was really torn to bits on that street.
Yeah, well, I just thought with maybe the impacts of all the water, if it had shaken it, if it was an older clay pipe, if there was some, hairline damage or whatever, it would be good to repair it all at the same time so that we could update that in our MAMP, asset management or whatever like the acronym is. That's all I was thinking, because then we could update that zone, because we already did cold water on the other side, and I thought if we could, or if it would be much cost, but probably everything's a big cost.
Yeah, definitely. If it does have some damage there that we can attribute to this event, then I would suggest that we put it in as a project and try to replace it. But we have great data through this whole effort here of the condition of our assets that will go into the asset management planning software. So definitely there's one good piece there that came out of this.
Thank you.
You will be costing the potential for curb or sewer storm gutter for us to make that decision
That
as
would
part
be
of an upgrade?
Yeah, the initial engineer that'll come in this week will give us a high level, but we'll have additional engineers that come in to do more detailed analysis and identify specific things that would be betterments. And then we would make a decision whether we want to go with a betterment as part of our asset plan.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Mr. MacArthur? It looks like Mr. Smith has a question for
I
you.
just want to make sure that council understands process-wise. So we're going to be doing the work to bring this road and sewer up to standard in accordance with what DFA has. But because we wouldn't be paving until the spring anyways, we have some time to look at and get this properly costed for you to be able to make the decision regarding betterments.
Thank you. Now we're looking at a motion that council adopt the proposed, nope, wrong one. The council provide approval of the contract and expenditures required to commence repair and replacement of essential infrastructure damaged by the overland flooding events between November 14th and December 2nd. These expenditures will be incurred prior to the city receiving approval of our cost recovery plan in bracket CRP. Do I have a mover?
So moved,
So moved.
Christopherson.
Christopherson, and second?
Etchart.
Etchart.
First, back
Okay.
whenever.
Sorry. Etchart and Christopherson, that way around then. Anyone want to speak to this motion? No? Okay.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Now we have a couple. Councillor Luck.
Yeah, no, I just fully support this motion, and I can't be happier about what's happening with this. And I'm really excited about some of the discussions we're going to have in the new year about receiving funding from the other levels of government. What we need to do to definitely be part of that disaster mitigation program as well, Mr. Smith. I'm really excited about that for our community. So it's overdue, and so that'll be really good to get going on that. So appreciate all the work you've been doing here. So that's great. Thank you.
Overdue. I probably need you to explain that because I thought it was actually quite early.
Oh, well, I mean, some of the infrastructures where we've been with our infrastructure with diking and that. So this would be really good to bring us up to a much higher standard that we've seen in the past. So that'll be good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
And seeing no other hands up, I'm going to call a question. All in favor? And opposed? None. Carried unanimously. So on to 9.3, the schedule of meetings and acting mayors. So in front of you, you just have the schedule. And I need a mover and a seconder that council adopts the proposed schedule of meetings and acting mayor rotations and instructs staff to advertise accordingly.
So moved.
Second.
Councillor White, Councillor Luck. Anyone want to speak to this? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? None. Carried. Okay, are there notices of motion? No. Reports from council? Councillor Christopherson, was that a report?
No, I think we probably said it all that can be said. I just really want to thank staff, yourself, for all that's being done during these really, really difficult times. I know we've received a lot of people are in a difficult ways and they're lashing out, but you know, there's also so many people out there that are helping other people, and I'm hearing lots of thank yous saying thank goodness that the city stayed the course. So I just want to say thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you, Councillor Christopherson. So seeing no other comments, I think I agree with Kurt. I've had more comments over the last little while, some positive support about how fast we have moved, how we have stayed the course, and it's just encouraged me. So I'm trying to pass that encouragement on to staff, because they have done just a tremendous tremendous job. And yeah, we wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for the hard work of staff, for sure. Councillor Richard.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo a lot of the same comments. Getting a lot of regular updates from our EOC director so that we can answer some of the basic questions to some of the citizens that are asking in a respectful way about what where they can take their materials, or how they can apply to have their homes taken out of VVAC, or where they can receive supports at the Resiliency Center. All of these things are positive, and even different comments maybe are made in the public. And maybe some of the perceptions out there are incorrect, and we can, explain to them how it happened, how we took action, and that we acted as fast as we could. And when we found out, we shared it with public, and people acted in the best options that they could. And I think that we can be proud of that. We tried our best, we did our best, and we continue to do our best, and appreciate everybody, and are grateful to the city workers and to the city staff, the UC team, and everybody out there who was trying to recover and stay strong. And the gratitude and appreciation to everybody who's volunteering time, and the different organizations, and Kamloops and Kelowna, and all these other municipalities who have come to our rescue. And it's just, thank you to everybody, and thank you to everybody on this meeting, and to people watching. And yeah, this isn't the time for that we can complain, but rather be grateful for the progress that we are seeing, and hopefully that people can get their houses back in shape. And so that's all I really want to say. So thank you, everyone.
And what I do know, there are a number of citizens who do not have the available house to move into right now, and we are looking for options for them. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I know this wouldn't be typical that I would ask to speak during this phase, but seeing as what's being discussed, I would love to just make a brief comment, wearing an EOC director hat for a moment. If there's one thing that I can want council to know it, and I want the public especially to know it, is that we know that there's still a lot of hurt in our community right now. There's a lot of work ahead. It's fantastic. There's some basic services that are online, but the heavy lifting, it's still ahead of us, and we know that. And I just wanted to make sure that you know that we aren't taking our foot off the gas. We'll be working with every level of government to try bringing in as many resources as possible. We'll work with NGOs to try making life better each day. I know that for a lot of you, you're looking at your personal circumstances and thinking that it's just an insurmountable task. I know that our community will rally around you, whether it's staff, council, volunteers, other non-NGOs. We're really going to keep pushing to try making this horrible experience slightly less horrible, but I know it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. There's still going to be a lot of hurt and pain, but we're not stepping back, despite the fact that that we've hit some major milestones, and we're really happy with that, but our foot's not coming off the gas.
Thank you for that. Councillor White.
I've actually had a couple of comments from people praising the work that was done out in the field as far as roads and all that sort of thing was done, and comments that thankfully we never lost any lives. So
thank you. I think we can, as council, be proud of what has happened on the EOC team and how we've gotten to this point. As Mr. Smith said, we still have a long ways to go. We have to look at housing for those that need it temporarily and on a permanent basis. And we've got a long road ahead of us. But to the citizens, just know that we are with you in this struggle. We're trying our best. And we're trying to move as fast as we can as well, and we'll continue to do that until we can't do it any longer. So, thank you. Okay, we now would close up this meeting, and we'll move into an in-camera meeting under 9.1D, the security of the property of Merritt. And so I would like us to move in camera at this point in time. Thank you.
Your worship, I apologize. You need a move and a seconder for that.
Oh,
So
So moved.
thank you.
Second.
Councillor Richard, Councillor Luck.
first,
And,
Gotta learn how to use my mic.
and knowing we had a mover and seconder, I also need a vote on it. So all in favor
some of,
and opposed?
all in favor.
And Councillor Bangu, how did you vote?
In favor.
Pardon me?
In favor, yes.
In favor, thank you. So that's unanimous. And we are now in camera. We'll take a 2-minute break.